Welcome to the Tired as a Mother podcast, where we discuss pregnancy, birthing experiences, postpartum, and parenting against societal norms. We are your hosts, Anissa and...
My name is Larissa, and we are so glad that you joined us for our very first season. Now grab your favorite coffee or drink and join us as we navigate through motherhood. Welcome to the first episode of Tired as a Mother podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Anissa. My name is Larissa, and we're going to go ahead and get started on why we started this podcast.
Welcome. We're so excited to have all the moms here, and moms and expected moms. We are so excited to have you here. We were discussing this idea for a while, and our heart and our thoughts behind this podcast is to reach out to moms to discuss postpartum journey and birth stories, and just to have a safe space.
So to start, I am 8 months postpartum now. I always want to say 6 because I'm like, for some reason I'm stuck at 6. And they're like, people are like, how old is Micah? I'm like, 6 months. And then my husband's like, babe, he's already 8. I feel like it's going by so fast. But I am 8 months postpartum. It is my first child, and I gave birth with a C-section. What about you, Nisa?
So this is my second child, and I am 7 months postpartum, and I had a natural delivery with midwives.
Really quick, the way we know each other is through church. We've known each other since, how long has it been? I think I was like 19.
Yeah, it's been over 10 years.
19 or 20. Yeah, I'm 31.
Yes.
32. 31 or 32. One of them. Anyways, so to get started, I think the first topic we'll cover is postpartum depression, because I feel like for me, after birth, I was so like invested in like recovering and taking care of the baby and like learning new stuff. I think that my postpartum depression didn't officially set in where I was like, oh my God, I have a problem, until like 5 months.
The second baby, my postpartum anxiety set in like probably
right away.
Yeah.
How about with Elsie, the first one?
With Elsie, it took me a little while because I realized, a few months in, that I didn't fully understand what being a mom was and the big responsibility it was.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me a little bit more to have a little bit more anxiety, and I realized that I wasn't okay. I think I want to say 4 to 5 months in, and it was really hard to navigate postpartum with her. So with Travis, it's navigating it with 2 children and 1 stepson, and trying to balance that and balance work. So I think it's set in right away because I already knew what to expect.
Yeah. I feel like with me too, I think it took so long because I had such a hard breastfeeding journey that I feel like maybe because I was so hyper focused on like, I'm not supplying enough milk, or my baby's not eating enough, when he was perfectly fine. I was like, is he eating enough? Should I formula feed? Like, what do I do? But yeah, I didn't know breastfeeding was going to be so hard. And they don't teach you about it. Like, I thought it's just going to be rainbows and everything's going to be fine. But I honestly think it wasn't really depression for me. I feel like it was more anxiety.
Yes.
Especially with breastfeeding.
My first breastfeeding experience was hard. I think that's where a lot of the anxiety, I had a lot more depression with Elsie too, where it was like hard to get out of bed, and it was just hard to get going some days. But it was the same thing. I felt like a failure that we had to introduce formula in the hospital, and a little bit when we came home. We actually had to use the SNS system. Mm-hmm. So they give you a tube to put into the formula, and then you have to latch them on and feed the formula that way.
Okay.
So they're technically,
she had a tongue tie, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah, she had a tongue tie. So technically you have to latch the baby on, get the bottle, and make sure she's latched on with the tube in her mouth.
Oh my gosh.
It was so stressful. So every time I had to feed, people were over, and I was like so anxious because I needed Mike every single feeding, because you had to have 2 people to feed. So it was insane.
I feel like another thing was hard for me to navigate too with breastfeeding is that they don't really tell you much. They don't say like, hey, prepare for breastfeeding. It might be hard. It might not, come as easily as it will for other women. And then like depression, anxiety, like postpartum too, I feel like nobody ever talks about that. I feel like especially like in the Christian world, it's like, we're not supposed to be depressed and anxiety, and you think like, oh, that's not going to happen to me. Like I read my Bible every day, like I pray every day, everything's gonna be fine. And then you keep fighting. Maybe that's why. Maybe I had it earlier and then I just realized later, like, why do I keep lying to myself, you know?
Yes, you almost tried to fight it, actually.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you're supposed to suppress it and you're supposed to go to God for these, anxious thoughts and these depressive thoughts, which is true, and you are, and you're not supposed to meditate on them. But I think that not being prepared, with your first kid is where it all sets in. And then you're trying to breastfeed and you're trying to recover. Yeah. And even from nursing school, I didn't remember the full recovery of delivering a baby. I didn't remember all of the bleeding and the pain and trying to get the baby to nurse and being up all night and, sleep deprivation. It was a lot. Yeah. So I think on top of that, and your hormones are at an all-time high, and then they just totally plummet. And so you're trying to juggle everything. And then on top of that, trying to have a successful marriage and keeping your relationship up with God, it's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot. I feel like too, when I like keep everything inside and I'm like, I'm fine. Just because I don't want to feel like, a burden. But then there are times when I do talk to my husband and he's just like, don't stress. Which, I mean, I love my husband. He's so good at like comforting me and like giving me words of like wisdom and stuff. But I just feel like they don't understand, They're like, why are you depressed? This is the most happy. Like, we've been praying. Like, with our journey, we had fertility struggles for 2.5 years. So I feel when we did get pregnant, I had, what's it called? Like, is there such thing as like postpartum depression?
Yes.
I don't know. I feel like they just don't get it. Do you feel like that too?
Yeah, it's not the same. So I really had to lean on my mom friends, my neighbors, my sister-in-law, to really vent and have them understand, the place that I was in. And having Mike is such a blessing, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
He doesn't fully understand. I'm worrying about feeding and pumping and when we need to change his diaper and how are we going to feed him when we're on the go. And he's just like, okay, grab the diaper bag and go. It's so easy. Yes. And I'm here struggling, trying to figure out how to pump, where to pump, when to pump, and how to feed baby and latch him. And it's just not the same, I feel like, with the husband. And even though I'm really grateful for him, they just don't, from a male perspective, they just don't understand.
It's like you said, it's just different. I feel like it's more, which is why we started this podcast. It's more relatable woman to woman than it is to, speak to your husband or your partner.
Yes, the second time postpartum, I remember I was just like in the kitchen crying, making my oatmeal, and he was like, what's wrong? And he just didn't understand. He didn't get it. Yeah. So,
and it's as I'm saying, it's kind of like taboo because it's the happiest moment of your life, like the time. Yes. But it's also like the most saddest.
Oh, definitely. I feel like it's kind of like a weight on your shoulders almost. I mean, it definitely gets better when, they start getting older, but in those initial days after birth, it was so stressful and I feel like depressing. The devil really wants to come in and kind of take that joy away from you and make you feel distracted. So that's how I kind of felt like maybe 2 days after Travis, and people were trying to come over and I was just crying. But I quickly snapped out of it because I already knew from Elsie what I was dealing with. And so I told him when I was crying, trying to make my oatmeal, like, I just want someone to take care of me. So he was super supportive in that. And he started cooking for me when he was home and helping out with everything, doing laundry, doing dishes every single day. And I just was able to focus on baby. So if I would have had that knowledge the first time around and really being direct in my communication with him, I think I would have had a more successful postpartum like I am now. So this time around, I knew that I had to go back to work. And with Elsie, I went back at 3 months. And so this time I had some advice from some of my coworkers that I can actually extend if I was feeling postpartum anxiety and depression. So I reached out to my midwives and they extended my postpartum 2 more times. So I got 6 weeks each time. So I had a total of 12 weeks extra. But then after the 12 weeks, they made me seek therapy for Travis. So I went to an outpatient mental health therapy and we did it all virtual. It was 3 days a week, 3 hours a day. So I went in not thinking that I really needed it, but each day we were in a mom group virtually, and they had a therapist directing the group, and it was so helpful. Really? I feel like if I had that the first time around and I had a lot of, the tools that they gave us, I feel like I would have been way more successful. And I feel like that's what every mom needs when they leave. So this time I was seeing midwives to deliver, and they gave me so much resources after I had Travis. So that's how I knew about the outpatient mental health therapy group. And even just mom's group they had every Tuesday. And I didn't know about those resources when I delivered with Elsie. So I felt like I was in a dark hole with Elsie for a really long time, and I couldn't get out of it. And then now with Travis, I feel like that dark hole didn't extend
longer than it did with your first.
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like for me as a stay-at-home mom, it's still hard because you're taking care of the baby, and then you're taking care of yourself, and then you got to make sure the house is clean, and then you got to cook dinner, and then it's like all these things piled on that sometimes I forget to even like shower or like take care of myself,
Yes.
Because I feel like as a mom you kind of just put everybody else before you. And I would highly suggest to make sure you go on a walk at least. If you're a stay-at-home mom, go on a walk. That honestly helped me so much. Definitely. Or to even like put a little bit of mascara on or do my hair just to make myself feel better. I felt like for the longest time I was just stuck. Pretty much depression at that point. Because you're just like, I'm not doing anything, Yes. And I think I struggled too with not being able to contribute money-wise.
Yes.
My husband's making all the money, but like, what am I doing to help? And then again, it goes back to my husband giving good advice. It's like, babe, you're taking care of our kid, Like, you don't need to feel any less of a woman that you're not bringing in half of the income.
Yeah, and I feel like it'll just, it's still a struggle even when you are a working mom, and I am, and I'm working full time, and it's still having to take care of my family and take care of my home, make sure we have dinner, make sure the clothes are washed, and then still work full time. So I definitely think that being a stay-at-home mom for those 7 months with Travis was a game changer. I totally understand like how you guys feel, because I feel like being a stay-at-home mom is actually more work than being a working mom.
Yeah.
Because I go to work and I get a break. I get to go to the bathroom by myself. I get to eat by myself. I go to Starbucks alone. So I feel like I think you guys have a harder job most days.
I was telling my husband the other day, I was like, you don't get it. And he's like, but yeah, you get to stay home. You don't like have to go to work every day. But I'm like, you get to have like adult interaction.
Yes.
Like it's literally just me and the baby. Like as much as I have a conversation with him, I'm not getting much back, And I feel like you kind of do need that like one-on-one with like adults, That's why I think when we go to church, I'm just like even more excited now because I'm like, yeah, I get to talk to people. I mean, my husband does help a lot. Like when he gets home from work, he'll take the baby and I'll like, go take a shower and stuff. But it's like, I want to be with him at the same time. So I don't want alone time.
Yes.
I just feel like it's a balance that if I don't pray and renew my mind daily, I cannot do it on my own strength at all.
Oh, for sure. Yes. And that's what I was saying about the therapy group. And even though they didn't incorporate faith, I was able to incorporate faith with a lot of what they were saying to me, and just able to pinpoint exactly what I needed. And my biggest thing was asking for help. I thought I can do it all on my own, like washing dishes and doing everybody's laundry.
Yeah.
And going grocery shopping and cooking dinner every night and taking on the whole household chores. Yeah. So the only thing my husband was really helping with was outside chores, which was the lawn, and managing our finances and working. So that was a huge blessing. But I also had to realize that I had to ask for help with even just doing laundry, or doing one load of laundry, or doing the dishes after I cooked dinner.
Did you ever feel guilty asking for help?
Yes.
Yeah, so did I. I struggled with that for the longest time. I felt like he was going to work all day, so I was like, I don't want him to be tired and go to work. Yes. But then over here, I'm like on 2 hours of sleep. I'm like, I need help.
That's what I told the therapist in the group, and actually all the moms related to it, because it's such a difficult thing to ask for help when you're in the most anxious state of your life. Yeah. And it's not even just with my husband. It was with my mom and, my extended family as well. Like, hey, I need help. Can somebody come over and help? And they helped me understand that you can ask for help, but it's on the person to say yes or no. Do you have people around you supportive enough to say a sincere yes or no.
Yeah.
So you ask, but let them make the decision. So she said, you have your husband. He is responsible enough to say yes or no if he can help. And that made a huge difference. So I don't expect anything. I don't overthink when I ask him now. I just ask him, and if he can't do it, then I just move on and figure out when I can.
Yeah.
So that made a huge difference this time around, and I feel like I'm not in that dark hole like I was with Elsie.
We are going to continue into the next episode. In the next episode, we're probably going to touch a little bit more on how postpartum anxiety is going, and then we will also get into our birthing experiences. Thank you guys for joining us for our first episode. We pray that you are blessed, and everybody that is listening, if you're a mom, going to be a mom, or praying to be a mom, our prayers are with you. We love you. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.